it's interesting because we try and make everything so easy and good for our kids. Sometimes we forget that adversity has created things in us and sometimes has pushed us to success. And joining me on the phone right now to help explain this is Dr. Jude Miller Burke. Dr. Burke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So tell me about this adversity advantage. And let's talk about this for a second, because really, so I guess setting the stage, in our society nowadays, we are really doing everything we can so nobody fails, nobody has a difficulty. We're trying our best to make it so everybody has a perfect playing field and success at every turn. That might not be the best move based on this information.
That's very true. And being a parent, I also have seen many parents that do the helicopter parenting, including myself at times. And in retrospect, now that my kids are off of college, I can see how sheltering them from adversity is, so much may not have been the best thing to do. I started studying this when I was about 5 years ago. I was looking at factors that led people to success. And over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, people would tell me about their troubles from their childhood, whether that be childhood abuse or poverty or alcoholic parents or mental illness of a family member. But they still went on to achieve great levels of success. And I thought, there's so much socioeconomic disparity in our society today. I wanted to create like a template to help people get to success as easily as possible. My parents were like 18 years old when they got married, and they had 5 kids, boom, 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 Polish Catholic family. And there really was no one giving us guidance. They were kids themselves. And so I thought if I could put this information into a template, a pathway, kind of a roadmap for people, that it could really help others. So I've done several phases of research, and this last phase of research was on 310 men and women. And unbeknownst to me, over half of them were self-made millionaires or multimillionaires, and on average, they made $250,000 a year. Now, the only relevance of that is that their childhood adversity did not keep them from achieving success. And a lot of the previous research demonstrated that if you experience too much childhood adversity, it could really keep you from achieving any career goals. But I knew from all these people that I had known socially that that was not the case. And in fact, in many ways, it made them much more complex, sensitive individuals. In the last phase of research, what I found out is that 40% of these high-achieving men and women experienced either childhood abuse, an alcoholic family member, most often a parent, or witnessed domestic violence. So a very high number. And what it shows is that, first of all, violence is not just a woman's issue, which I had worked at Honeywell for 10 years. It was predominantly a male division in North Minneapolis for 10 years, and I provided employee assistance counseling and management consultation. So I knew that many of the men also struggled with harassment in the workplace, and they also struggled with childhood abuse and domestic violence. And so that was really interesting to me, that the men were up front, and many of the men I interviewed for the book also, and they talked about their childhood abuse that they experienced. We used
hang on.
standardized measures.
I want to stop just for a second there. Dr. Jude Miller Burke is joining me on the phone. We're talking about the adversity advantage and how childhood, sometimes what we would call problems or issues that they experienced in their lives, actually push some people to success. So I want to kind of cut in on one key point here, though. So in your research, though, as you looked at these things that people live through, what is the difference between people who are able to use that adversity to push themselves to success versus those who maybe fall by the wayside and turn to alcohol and drugs and don't find success, for example? Did you research that aspect of it?
Yes, I did. Oftentimes people reported one stable adult, whether it was a grandparent that would come to their baseball games or an aunt who taught them a hobby. But somewhere in the mix, there was one stable adult that made them feel special. And then also pursuing, and this is the contention of my book, The Adversity Advantage: Turn Your Childhood Hardship into Career and Life Success. My personal belief, it's not the workplace's job to heal you. On the other hand, your career and your workplace successes and achievements can really help you overcome a rough start in life.
Oh, interesting. And by the way, I just have to say, I grew up in the southwest suburbs of Minneapolis, and feeling 30 below zero is automatic childhood adversity. So anybody growing up,
downright abuse.
It is. It's like a form of
Yeah.
abuse, and that's why
That's
now
right.
I live in
I
California.
forgot that you had grown up in Minnesota. I now live in Phoenix, and so I'm not as familiar with the winters in Minnesota, but they are rough.
So you see that you know what I'm talking about, though. People have to escape that. It is a form of adversity. So maybe that's why there are successful people who come out of Minnesota. I don't know. I'm just saying. So I think it's fascinating that you did this research. So again, I just find this to be very interesting in the adversity advantage, that there is a lesson that, losing has a place. Not everybody has to be a winner. Sometimes not winning helps you understand what you're doing wrong. So, or pushes you to do better. And in this case, obviously things like abuse and domestic violence is not, within your realm of choice, but it can lead people to outcomes that maybe are best. But isn't there another side of that, though, too? Just because you made millions of bucks, for example, and you're able to use that adversity to drive you somewhere, don't some of those people still have to deal with psychological issues and therapy to kind of deal with what it was in the background?
Definitely. That's very true. And many people go into overdrive to overcompensate from a parent who told them that they were not good enough and they would never amount to anything. And of course, there are those people who may go on and continue to mistreat other people. But then there are those, and some of their direct quotes were things such as, I was treated so poorly as a child that I knew when I grew up I would go on and I would never treat anyone that way. Now, you can imagine as a leader in a company, what a great value that would be to have. So many of the people just saw really poor communication growing up, arguments that would end up with things being broken and thrown across the room. And so they really studied communication. So they're some of the people that are the most eloquent in their speaking. So basically, people became a student of different things. Conflict, for instance, is a very important issue to master in the workplace. The higher you are up in the hierarchy, the more the problems float up to you, and it's your job to help people resolve conflict and to role model good conflict negotiation skills. Well, this group as a whole reported having a very difficult time with conflict, even though my previous research showed how important that was.
This is fascinating.
So they studied it. They learned a conflict negotiation model. So they became students of the very things they missed as a child. And then, of course, their survival skills are incredibly valuable in the workplace in terms of their intuition, their sensitivity to read others. Maybe they can read the politics of a meeting much better than other people. Maybe they learned early on you need to give someone something that they want to get what you want for your work group. And so these are people who have become students of how to get along with others and how to improve their conflict management and their communication skills to get ahead.
This is fascinating. I mean, this is really, really interesting. And the book, again, is called The Adversity Advantage: Turn Your Childhood Hardships into Career Success. Dr. Jude Miller Burke. Dr. Burke, thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck to you.
All right. Thank you. You too as well.